Kaori's journey began on an autumn evening when the creeping twilight bled into the horizon, drawing her toward an enigmatic village hidden deep in a forest of secrets. As she stepped onto the narrow cobblestone path, a dense, unyielding fog unfurled around her like a shroud, concealing what lay ahead. The persistent mist did not merely obscure the world. It seemed to cradle the very essence of despair, whispering echoes of forgotten tragedies. With every hesitant step, the weight of unspoken memories pressed in upon her, urging her deeper into the labyrinth of the cursed Hamlet. The village of Vale of Dread materialized before Kaori, like a scene from a disquieting dream. Ivy clung to weathered cottages and ancient structures, their silent walls steeped in sorrow and untold secrets. The perpetual fog lent a ghostly luminosity to the dilapidated architecture, each creaking board and shattered window a silent witness to a past long shrouded in mystery. Despite her mounting apprehension, Kaori could not shake the allure of the unknown, her heart pounding as she navigated the narrow lanes that twisted like the strands of an intricate, sinister web. As Kaori wandered deeper into the village's heart, the atmosphere grew oppressively thick with melancholic energy. In every distant murmur of the wind, she heard elusive voices, half-heard confessions of despair and regret. The spectral sounds intertwined with the rustle of ancient trees, composing a forlorn ballad of lost souls. Each corner of the village held cryptic hints of past lives, a hastily scrawled message on a crumbling wall here, a solitary, faded token tucked away in an abandoned alcove there, messages that implored her to uncover the truth about the curse that had entwined these lands. The fog, almost sentient in its persistence, seemed to guide and mislead Clara in equal measure. Its swirling density not only obscured vision, but appeared to morph into fleeting shapes that danced at the edges of perception. At times, it was as if the mist itself bore witness to her every step, whispering warnings in a language older than time. The dense haze and the village's spectral charm conspired together to blur the line between reality and memory, leaving Kaori with an overwhelming sense of being both an intruder and a long-lost participant in an age-old drama of despair and regret. In one of the ivy-strangled nooks of the village, Kaori discovered a dilapidated diary wedged behind a crumbling stone. Its brittle pages, yellowed with age, were filled with harrowing accounts of the village's tragic past. Each entry was a window into a world where hope had long been abandoned, replaced instead by pervasive fear and sorrow. Reading the cryptic words, she pieced together the remnants of a dire ritual, a forbidden attempt to restore prosperity that had backfired horribly, condemning the villagers to a cursed fate that would haunt their every breath and echo through the annals of time. Nightfall deepened the village's spectral ambience, and as the last vestiges of twilight surrendered to darkness, Kaori felt the chilling presence of something beyond the mortal realm. The mist thickened around her, its tendrils encircling her with an almost tangible malice. She observed ghostly figures gliding silently among the ruins, their ephemeral forms reenacting tormented moments frozen in time. The apparitions moved with a tragic grace, as though imprisoned by their own despair, endlessly doomed to repeat the final hours of lives that had been abruptly and irrevocably altered by the fateful ritual. With every step, Kaori sensed that the village was a living entity, a repository of sorrow and ancient malevolence. The spectral figures, emerging from the endless fog, carried in their haunting eyes both the burden of the past and the ambiguity of redemption. Their silent lament was compulsion, Kaori felt that her own destiny was inexorably linked to these cursed echoes and the secrets they guarded. As the hours of the night grew long and the village surrendered further to its haunted destiny, Kaori sought shelter in what appeared to be a once grand townhouse. Its interior was a testament to faded grandeur, a labyrinth of corridors lined with portraits of somber figures whose eyes seemed to follow her every movement. Dust danced in the streams of feeble light that pierced the gloom, and every creak of the floorboards underfoot resonated like a dying heartbeat. In the silence of that forsaken house, the boundaries between past and present began to blur, as if the very walls were privars to the village's sorrowful secrets. The diary's fragmented revelations haunted Kaori as she roamed the abandoned rooms of the townhouse, piecing together the tragic narrative of the ill-fated ritual. The entries spoke of a desperate pact forged in the name of salvation. A pact that ultimately doomed the village to perpetual despair. Each carefully penned line carried a forewarning, a lamentation for lives claimed by the consequences of ambition and hubris. It became painfully clear that the mist, with its implacable presence, was not a mere meteorological phenomenon, but rather the embodiment of an ancient curse that both imprisoned and transformed all who dwelled within its shroud. In a moment of rare solitude beneath the flickering light of a solitary lamp, Kaori allowed herself to reflect on the journal's contents and the heavy burden of the secrets she had unearthed. The pages revealed not only the destruction wrought by a misguided attempt to escape poverty and despair, but also an insidious truth. The village itself was an instrument of retribution, a living monument to those who had dared to tamper with forces beyond mortal understanding. The air vibrated with sorrowful energy, and as Kaori traced the faded ink with trembling fingers, she could almost hear the voices of the past lamenting their eternal confinement within the mists. Driven by an insatiable need to comprehend the inexplicable phenomenon that had claimed the lives of so many, Kaori embarked on a cautious exploration of the village's outskirts. Outside the safety of the crumbling township, the landscape transformed into a wild, untamed wilderness where nature and the supernatural entwined in a macabre dance. The sound of rustling leaves and distant whispers merged into a chorus of desolation, painting a vivid tableau of a place caught between corporeal reality and the spectral realm. Every step along the abandoned pathway resonated with an eerie foreboding, as though the earth itself mourned its lost hopes. As Kaori advanced along the solitary trail, the environment grew increasingly surreal. The boundaries of the familiar world seemed to dissolve, replaced by a domain where every rustle of wind and every quiver of shadow hinted at an unseen watcher. The thick mist not only distorted the landscape, but also seemed to distort time, drawing moments into elongating minutes that blurred into an eternal present. The forest around her loomed large and ominous, its twisted branches and gnarled roots serving as silent sentinels, forever guarding the secrets of a long-forgotten ritual that had cursed the village for generations. The deeper Kaori ventured, the more palpable the sensation of being encircled by the spectral remnants of lost souls became. A quiet dread crept into her thoughts as she began to observe the forest itself. Each ancient tree bore signs of decay, and hidden among its tangled roots were small cryptic symbols that resonated with a forewarning. The air was permeated with a haunting chill that seemed to seep into her very being, bolstering her apprehension. It was as if the forest had become an extension of the curse, a living repository for the grief and rage of those who had been ensnared by the malevolent power of the mist. Moments of relative calm were fleeting, for as Kaori paused to gather her thoughts beside a long-forgotten stone monument, the silence was suddenly ruptured by an uncanny, distant melody. The sound was faint and disjointed, like an echo from a bygone era, lost in the mists of time. It moved with an almost hypnotic cadence, drawing her further into the heart of the wilderness. Though the melody was gentle, it carried an undercurrent of sorrow that spoke of irreversible loss and interminable mourning, instilling in Kaori a profound empathy for the tortured souls that had once called this cursed place home. Torn between a desire to retreat and an insatiable curiosity, Kaori pressed onward, her mind a tumult of emotions and uncertainty. The landscape shifted around her as if guided by an unseen hand, every twist and turn of the narrow pathways meticulously designed to lead her into the depths of the village's dark history. The relentless mist, heavy and unyielding, pressed against her skin, its touch both a warning and a beckon to unravel the mysteries hidden beneath its surface. In that surreal interplay of shadow and light, the line between salvation and damnation became ever more blurred, leaving Clara in a state of perpetual suspense. As the night deepened, Kaori found herself drawn to an overgrown archway that marked the entrance to a secluded part of the village. The structure, barely discernible beneath layers of ivy and decay, exuded an aura of ancient significance. With cautious determination, she crossed the threshold and entered a forgotten courtyard dominated by an altar-like structure, its design echoing archaic symbols and fatalistic prophecies. Every detail of the setting evoked a profound sense of reverence and foreboding, as if the very stone held memories of a ritual that was both wondrous and catastrophic in its consequence. Within the courtyard, time appeared to slow as Kaori examined intricate carvings etched deep into the weathered stone. Each line and curve told a story of hope, betrayal, and tragic downfall, a narrative seamlessly interwoven with the cursed legacy that had befallen this forsaken village. The reverence of the moment was punctuated by the soft rustle of the eternal mist, which seemed to murmur in hushed tones of sorrow and regret. In that quiet, haunting space, Kaori felt an overwhelming responsibility to bear witness to the echoes of the past, understanding that her own fate might be irrevocably tied to the secrets encapsulated within those silent stones. In the ensuing hours, as Kaori meticulously documented her findings in a weathered journal of her own, she became increasingly aware of an internal transformation. The spectral figures and the oppressive weight of the village's history had begun to merge with fragments of her own long-suppressed memories. The delicate line separating her personal experiences from the sorrowful narrative of the village grew indistinct. Every distant, mournful echo and every inexplicable chill felt as though it resonated with a shared pain, a universal sorrow that transcended time and space, uniting her with the forsaken spirits whose tragic lives were eternally enmeshed with the mist. Determined to unlock the mysteries further, Kaori retraced her steps along the meandering paths that led deeper into the forest. Her resolve was met by challenges at every turn. The oppressive fog restricted her view, and each rustle of unseen movements in the underbrush heightened her guarded vigilance. Despite the rising tide of fear and despair, a quiet determination burned within her. She knew that within these haunting remnants of lost time lay the key to breaking the curse and liberating both the tormented souls of the village and perhaps, in a twist of fate, herself from the inescapable grip of an ancient, malevolent power. Along the winding trails, Kaori encountered a series of ancient carvings on stone pillars, each etched with symbols that defied explanation. The intricate designs were both mesmerizing and foreboding, drawing her into a realm that straddled the line between myth and reality. It was as though the very stones were imbued with the memories of the villagers who had long ago sought salvation through a misguided ritual. With every carved detail, the carvings narrated a saga of ambition, regret, and the insidious consequences of summoning an otherworldly presence, one that promised prosperity, yet demanded a sacrifice of eternal sorrow. As Kaori ventured further into the forest, the oppressive atmosphere gave way to subtle, yet unmistakable signs of a long-forgotten ceremony. Faded remnants of ceremonial garb lay strewn about in secluded clearings, and the weathered outlines of a once sacred circle could be made out in areas where the mist clung to the ground with an almost sentient persistence. The artifacts and symbols left behind offered a window into a time when the villagers, gripped by hope and despair in equal measure, had sought to harness a mysterious power that would ultimately lead to their downfall. The scene was haunting, each silent relic a reminder of sacrifices that had birthed a legacy of perennial dread. In the eerie stillness of that liminal space, Kaori felt the weight of destiny pressing upon her. The delicate balance between the living and the spectral seemed to waver with every gust of wind, each shifting particle of the perpetual mist echoing the sorrows of those who had come before. With her mind reeling from the revelations of the past and her heart thudding with trepidation, she stepped carefully into the center of the old ceremonial circle. It was here, beneath the indifferent gaze of ancient trees and a moon that struggled to pierce the relentless fog, that the true magnitude of the curse began to unveil itself, inviting her to become both witness and participant in a drama that had spanned generations. Amid the silent communion with the ghostly remnants of the past, Kagori sensed a profound shift within herself. Each spectral echo, every whisper carried by the wind, resonated with her innermost fears and aspirations. It was as if the ancestral anguish of the village had seeped into her soul, intertwining her fate with that of the forsaken inhabitants who had been trapped in a cycle of sorrow and regret. Her every thought was haunted by the possibilities of liberation and doom, yet amidst the uncertainty, an unwavering determination began to crystallize, a resolve to confront the cursed echoes and endeavor to break the chains that bound the village to its tragic destiny. As the night inched toward its nadir, Kaori found herself inexorably drawn to the heart of the forest, a place where the natural world and the supernatural intermingled in a tapestry of enigmatic beauty and palpable dread. The trees, ancient and gnarled, loomed overhead, like silent guardians of a forgotten ritual, their twisted limbs etched against the sky that was a perpetual twilight. Every step taken along the rugged path was accompanied by the haunting rustle of fallen leaves and the echo of footsteps that might not be entirely her own. The forest, in its profound isolation, spoke in a language of decay and despair, urging her to uncover the final layer of secrets that lay hidden deep within its clutches. Amid the isolation and the haunting silence of the forest, Kaori chanced upon an overgrown shrine partially reclaimed by nature. The structure, though barely discernible amid wild ivy and creeping vines, exuded an aura of somber dignity. Intricate carvings on the stone surface revealed snippets of an ancient incantation, each symbol a piece of a sorrowful puzzle that narrated the rise and fall of an ill-fated covenant. In that sacred yet desolate space, every etched line resonated with pain and longing. The shrine stood as a silent testament to the desperate pleas for redemption that had once filled the hearts of a community now relegated to eternal mourning. While lingering at the shrine, Kaori's mind circled around the fragmented lore of the village, piecing together the details of a ritual that had been both a desperate gamble and a fatal miscalculation. The inscriptions hinted at a dire alliance forged with an unseen entity, a pact that had brought fleeting prosperity at the cost of a relentless supernatural curse. Each word and symbol on the weathered stone evoked images of candlelit ceremonies, fervent invocations, and the tragic cost of seeking to wield forces far beyond human control. The air was thick with the lingering resonance of chants and prayers that had long since faded, leaving behind only the sorrowful echoes of what had once been. As Kaori retraced her steps from the shrine, a profound sense of déjà vu enveloped her. It was as if the forest itself had absorbed her presence and was now subtly mirroring the fragmented memories of her own past. Every rustle of the branches, every shifting shadow over the moss-covered ground carried the weight of experiences long buried within the recesses of her mind. The whispered echoes of a life once lived, or perhaps forsaken, merged with the spectral laments of the village, creating an unsettling harmony that left her questioning the boundaries between fate and free will. The forest, in its mysterious wisdom, appeared to be guiding her toward revelations that transcended the individual, tapping into a collective sorrow that spanned time. Beneath the oppressive canopy of interwoven branches, Kaori found herself hesitating at the edge of a clearing, where nature had reclaimed an expanse once marked by human endeavor. Here, ancient stone foundations jutted out from the undergrowth, remnants of a meeting hall where the villagers had convened in times of hope and desperation. The ruins, now a part of the natural decay, echoed with the silent testimonies of countless voices that had once filled the space with dreams and despair. As she wandered among these broken relics, each stone seemed to murmur secrets of forgotten rituals and whispered incantations, urging her to delve deeper into a mystery that was as much about personal loss as it was about a community's haunted legacy. With the relentless passage of time in the village, Kaori could feel the spectral presence intensifying, a mounting chorus of forgotten voices that rose from the very soil and mingled with the perpetual mist. Every echo of a distant footstep, every subtle movement of the fog, served as a reminder that the village was not entirely abandoned. It was as if the sorrow of its past had imbued the very air with a latent, indescribable energy, waiting for the right moment to reawaken. Amid the palpable tension, Kaori resolved to confront these spectral echoes head-on, recognizing that understanding their origin might be the only way to break the ancient curse that held both the village and her captive in its sinister embrace. As the hours wore on, and the spectral activities intensified, Kaori found herself drawn once again to the remnants of the old townhouse, where secrets of the past lay dormant within the brittle pages of ancient diaries and crumbling letters. Each document she discovered was a thread woven into the elaborate tapestry of despair that had been spun by the forebears of the village. The careful, sorrowful script detailed lives marked by both mundane grief and supernatural horror. Each line a testament to a desperate hope turned tragic. Immersed in these relics of memory, Kaori felt an inescapable kinship with the lost souls whose echoes had gently caressed the edges of her consciousness, binding her to a legacy of endless mourning. Slowly, as the intensity of her surroundings merged with the quiet cadence of her thoughts, Kaori began to piece together the ill-omened events that had once transpired in the heart of the village. Through the fragmented writings, she discerned that the ill-fated ritual was not a haphazard act of desperation, but a meticulously designed, albeit tragically flawed, attempt to harness cosmic forces in a bid for salvation. The villagers, caught between hope and despair, had unwittingly sealed their fate in a moment of profound vulnerability and daring ambition. Each written account added layers of complexity to the narrative, leaving Kaori both horrified and fascinated by the realization that the curse was as intricate and bound by human frailty as it was born out of the mysterious forces lurking within the eternal fog. Determined to delve deeper, Kaori embarked on a solitary expedition toward a secluded region hinted at in the most fragmented accounts. A sacred clearing said to host the remnants of the ancient ceremony. The path leading there was fraught with obstacles. Crooked, overgrown pathways, sudden depressions in the earth that swallowed her footsteps, and an ever-present mist that seemed to twist reality into unfamiliar shapes. Nonetheless, her resolve did not waver. With each cautious step, the clearing revealed itself bit by bit, slowly unraveling as though it were a secret meant only for those with the courage to face the ghostly past. Its tragic whispers rising up like a refrain echoing through the desolate night. As Kaori finally stepped into the clearing, a profound stillness enveloped the area, starkly contrasting with the earlier turmoil of the forest. In the center, a weathered stone circle lay arranged in an almost ceremonial pattern. The stones inscribed with cryptic symbols that resonated with a forgotten language of grief and power. The atmosphere was imbued with the quiet intensity of a sacred rite, as if the remnants of the long-forgotten ritual still lingered in a state of suspended animation. Amid the quiet reverence, Kaori felt both an immense sorrow and an unyielding determination swell within her, a resolve to confront the forces at play and to seek an understanding of the curse that had so ruthlessly entwined itself with the lives of so many. Under the muted glow of a waning moon, Kaori settled onto the cold, rugged earth of the clearing and allowed herself a moment of introspection. The ancient stones seemed to whisper in a language older than memory itself, each murmured syllable a mournful echo of a lives erased by the curse. As the night deepened, the spectral echoes grew more distinct, apparent not as apparitions in the flesh, but as resonant vibrations that stirred long-dormant recollections within her mind. In the interplay between the silent stones and the vast, all-encompassing fog, Kaori realized that her journey was a convergence of her own forgotten past and the collective sorrow of a village left to languish beneath the ever-watchful veil of dread. The quiet vigil in the clearing soon yielded unforeseen events. A gentle, unworldly luminescence began to emanate from the inscriptions upon the stones, bathing the immediate area in a silvery glow that defied the oppressive darkness. The light was not warm, yet it carried an almost hypnotic quality that beckoned Kaori to approach closer. With careful steps, she allowed herself to become immersed in the otherworldly radiance. feeling as though she was standing at the precipice of a long-buried truth. The glow and its enigmatic origins stirred in her a renewed determination, an inner call to confront the transcendent forces behind the spectral echoes and the eternal curse that bound the village. In that luminous moment, Kaori began to perceive the underlying resonance of the clearing, a deep, rhythmic pulsation that seemed to echo in tandem with the beating of her own heart. The intensity of the spectral light gradually gave way to shifting shadows that coalesced into human-like forms, whose features were veiled by the ephemeral mists. They moved slowly, their gestures full of sorrowful grace, as if performing an eternal, mournful dance that paid homage to a lost era. Though their presence was ethereal and intangible, each apparition exuded an air of profound melancholy that spoke to both their own tragic histories and the unbreakable chain of fate that now tethered them to Kaori's own destiny. With every spectral encounter and every unexpected revelation, Kaori felt the burden of the curse grow heavier upon her soul. The village's past was no longer a remote historical enigma. It had become an intimate element of her present, a force that seeped into her thoughts and dreams alike. The ancient ritual, the desperate desires of forgotten villagers, and the ceaseless mourning of spectral voices intertwined, creating a complex tapestry of sorrow and yearning for redemption. In the silence between the spectral movements, Kaori could almost discern a plea, a desperate, unspoken request for liberation from an eternal cycle of despair that had, for too long, held the village in its merciless grasp. Emboldened by the growing communion with the spectral past, Kaori made the fateful decision to seek the ultimate source of the curse, a hidden cryptic chamber said to lie at the epicenter of the ancient ceremony. The journey toward this site promised to be fraught with the unknown, an abyss of despair and shadow that tested the limits of both resolve and sanity. Guided by the resonating whispers of lost souls and the faint, cryptic clues etched in the ancient inscriptions, she forged ahead with an unwavering determination. Every step toward the chamber was a testament to her steadfast will, as she prepared to confront the darkness that had thrived in secrecy for so many untold years. Arriving at the threshold of the hidden chamber, Kaori was met by a silence so profound it seemed to echo with the remnants of a bygone lament. The entrance, partially collapsed and overgrown with tangled vines, exuded an aura of solemn inevitability. With the flicker of a meager light dancing in her eyes, she cautiously stepped into the darkness beyond, where the weight of the curse pressed in from every corner. The chamber's walls bore the scars of time and ritual, and every echo of her footsteps reverberated like a mournful heartbeat. In that moment, as the spectral echoes enveloped her and secrets from the depths of the past surfaced, Kaori recognized that her journey was now irrevocably intertwined with the very nature of the curse. In the final moments of her harrowing journey, Kaori stood at the precipice between liberation and eternal entrapment. The chamber, with its silent, sorrowful testimony and the resounding chorus of spectral voices, was both a sanctuary of faded hope and a mausoleum of lost dreams. The ancient power that had once promised prosperity now revealed itself as a relentless force of despair, offering no simple recourse for redemption. Yet, in this place of somber revelations and spectral echoes, Kaori found within herself the quiet resilience to challenge the darkness. As she prepared to confront the ultimate truth of the curse, the eternal mist outside whispered its unresolved secrets, leaving her fate suspended in an ambiguous twilight where the line between salvation and doom was forever blurred.